How do I learn to be a groovier guitar player? How do I learn to play with more groove? This is what I'll talk about in the video coming up. In today's video, we're talking about how to learn groove, how to play with more groove. This is one of those words that can be extremely vague to a lot of people. A word like groove or feel, it's one of those magical words that's extremely hard to pin down exactly what you're talking about. But it's something you can kind of tell that exists, but you're just not sure how to put your finger on it. What is it exactly, and how do I learn it, and how do I improve it? And so I'd like to talk about what I feel groove is and what groove isn't, and what I feel are some really good ways to improve that in your own playing. So for me, what groove isn't is it isn't something that you're born with or something that's related to your ethnicity or something like that. I think for guitar players that I've taught, some people say, well, it's because of A, B, and C, I can't play with groove. And if you have that concept in your mind, that's so self-defeating. I mean, to think that, because I wasn't born with something, therefore I can't learn something. Perhaps if there's something that you need to unlearn, it's this self-defeating concept where you think that it's something that can't be learned. And that's something that I'd like to say right off the bat before I do talk about how I feel that you can strengthen your groove. And now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'll talk about what I feel groove boils down to ultimately. Groove boils down to time and dynamics. And now I think there's little nuances that can lend to a particular flavor of groove. But I think ultimately when you're thinking of this almighty concept of groove, it boils down to those two things: good time and good dynamics. So with those two concepts in mind, one of the things I think that is important about establishing a good groove is, as a guitar player, you're ultimately trying to mimic what the drums are doing. So because of that, before I do any playing on my guitar, I'd like to actually move over to my DAW here, and I'd like to play the drums just by itself so we can hear what the drums are doing here. So this is the groove of the drums. Dun, da, 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 dun, dun, da, 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 dun. So in this particular example, in this particular groove, this is what you're trying to accent as a guitar player. So moving back to just the guitar here and what we're doing here. Now, of course, the example I played earlier has a few different chords in it, but I'd like to just look at specifically the B minor 7 chord, which is this shape here. And now I'm taking out the roots. I'm actually only playing this in the example. So this B minor 7 shape. So the rhythm pattern of the drums is this here. But then I also had the muting in there as well. So let's add the muting. So it's sounding all right already. I'm playing it in time, which is the number one key component to groove. If you don't have good time, it's going to be a little bit hard to get to a good groove. Now, a really good way to develop your time is to use my best friend, the metronome. So I don't think only guitar players, but a lot of people that play instruments kind of have a love-hate relationship with the metronome. But the more that you play with the metronome, the better time you have, which then equals to better groove. So we talked about developing good time. Let's look at how we can develop good dynamics. So what are dynamics? Dynamics is the difference in loudness between all of your notes. So if I play two chords for you, so the difference in dynamics that we just had here, you had a loud note and you had a soft note. So that's what dynamics are. So now how this contributes to us playing better groove is to play the notes in the drum pattern stronger and louder, and then the muting notes playing them much softer. So first I'm going to play you an example with no dynamics again. Right, so everything sounded strong, confident, which is okay. I think if you're going for that sound, it could be pretty cool. But in my opinion, it has more groove if you make those mutes much softer, right? So something like this. And especially if you play that with some more instruments, it actually supports the instruments much better that are playing on top of you. So I think working on those two elements are going to give you a much better foundation when it comes to groove. Alright, so I'll leave that here for part 1. In part 2, I'm actually going to go a little bit deeper in the example I played earlier, and also looking at some nuanced things which can contribute to groove a little bit more as well too, and especially looking at the second half where I'm doing a little bit more kind of lead rhythm playing as well. I'll be looking at that in part 2. So if you want to check out that video, plus if you like a downloadable PDF of the example I played and the backing track so you can play along to what I played earlier, you can go to part 2, which is the link in the description. I'll see you there shortly.